I actually had a really good reading month in July. Let's talk about it. Hey, book people. Hola, mi gente. I'm Shay. Welcome back to the channel, MsMalcolmHughes, one where we believe books are sometimes better than people. Like I said, I read some really good books in July, and I want to tell y'all about them. So we're going to get right into it. Today, we're kind of going to do a reverse. Usually, I start with romance, but we're not starting with that today. This time, we're starting with nonfiction. So the first book I want to discuss is actually this one, The Message by Ta-Nehisi Coates. As y'all can see before I get into it, listen, little baby is tabbed up, okay? So a lot to share. All right, so if you're not familiar, The Message by Ta-Nehisi Coates is actually a book of essays. It has three main themes, arguably four, but it starts off with him having a message for his students about the purpose of writing, what it means to be a writer. So that's like the opening. We then get into the section where he goes to Senegal and what that means for him and just grappling with all of that. Then we get into the next section, which covers his journey to South Carolina, where they are attempting to ban his book, Between the World and Me, and his experience and journey doing that. And then finally, we have the largest section, which is on his time in Palestine, his experience there, and trying to rectify what he mistakenly covered in Between the World and Me, where he kind of deifies or raises up Israel as an example when in reality that just wasn't the case. And he's rectifying that and trying to set the record straight. And so those are the sections. I have many thoughts and I'm going to get into them. So looking into my notes, I say, I like that he is trying to impart upon his students the importance of writing, the role that they have signed up for, the weight of it, the significance of it, the need for it. We begin with more exploration from Coates than I originally anticipated. It's a deep reflection on his journey to this moment, to his travel to the synagogue, and what it all means, and him trying to grapple with being home in a sense, but not necessarily feeling home, and is it okay to feel that way, understanding all of the deep-rooted history, understanding internal bias and what we've been indoctrinated into and internalized versus seeing the beauty before him. Also understanding that some of it is falsehood, but still feeling deeply emotionally connected. I don't feel like we got a resolution from his time in Senegal. And I was like, but maybe that was the point. So I do think starting off with the message to his students, understanding the weight of it, I thought that was important and impactful. His time in Senegal, he really is trying to unpack a lot of what it means, what he thought he would feel, whether or not he is invested in that. Understanding that he's going home to Africa, he's going home to West Africa, and even knowing that a lot of what has been perpetuated as far as the last stop or the point of no return, that most people probably didn't come through there, but also still feeling the weight of it. Being in Senegal and understanding internalized like racism that he himself has grappled with, what he expected, what he saw, and how unpacking his perception, he was able to see things as they were, not as he was projecting them to be. So a lot to unpack there. I do have some quotes that I want to share from there as well. But yeah, I was like, I don't feel like we got a resolution from his time in Senegal, and maybe that was the point. One thing that I really loved about this book is that he referred to his books as his children, because it really does feel that way. As a fellow writer, it does feel that way, like you're birthing something into the world. And I want to read it. All right, he says, I imagine my books to be my children, each with its own profile and way of walking through the world. My eldest, the beautiful struggle, is the honorable, hardworking son. He has that union job my father once aspired to, 4 kids, and a wife he met in high school. My second son, Between the World and Me, is the gifted one, or rather the one whose gifts are most easily translated to the rest of the world. He plays in the NBA, enjoys the finer things, and talks more than he should. I see We Were 8 Years in Power as the insecure one, born in the shadow of my gifted son, and who has never quite gotten over it. He has problems. We don't talk about him much. All these children suspect that my daughter, my baby girl, the water dancer, is my favorite. Perhaps. She certainly is the one that is most like me, if a little better, more confident, and more self-assured. I love that. I loved it so much when I was reading it. I love it even now. I felt tingles as I read it, but I just love those descriptions of it and how he sees them. And I could see why he sees them that way. But I feel like we got a lot of quotes analyzing his journey as a writer, how he got here, what it means, and what his responsibility is. And that leads us through the next two sections as well. So, like I said, in the next section, we get him going down to South Carolina and dealing with the fact that they are trying to ban his book, understanding the culture, everything that's happening there. And so I do say that Coates is at his best in section 3. And so, depending on how you count the sections, but what I really mean is the section on South Carolina, his book banning. I said he does a phenomenal job of bringing home full circle the issue of race. He does a masterful job examining and detailing how the banning of books is more deeply rooted in fear and a desire to preserve rather than expand. And so, with that, we get the resolution there. They don't ban the book, but understanding the tug of war always, right? Between forces and what it all means and how any given day it can look different. But that was my favorite section. Next, we get into Palestine, and I say Coates is grappling with his understandings of the world, what he perceived it to be versus what he's seeing with his own eyes. I said Coates is grappling, and the grappling feels incomplete. He has something to say, and we should all read it. And I could tell that the investigation and inquiry for him is just starting. He has deeper depths to go. And he says that as well. The section on Palestine for me feels a little choppy, a bit chaotic, all over the place. Someone who has all of this information, all of this new knowledge, and is trying to make sense of it, but he hasn't gotten there yet. And so I understood the intent. I think it's important, absolutely, to tell that story, to advocate, to bear witness to what you're seeing, and to not be silent in the face of whatever anxieties you may have, but understanding the call of your ancestors and the responsibility and weight of that. I think is super important. But I do think that there's a grappling, and he didn't quite get full circle in that section for me. But overall, I really enjoyed the book. I think Coates is a brilliant writer. Y'all know that, one of my faves, an automatic buy for me. And I always appreciate his intellect. I appreciate the way he approaches it. I always appreciate what feels to be his honesty. And so for me, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think you should all read it. On my scale of read now, read soon, read when you have time, read if you want, I gave this a read soon. So that was the one nonfiction book that I read. Now we are going to get into some fantasy or dystopian, to be most specific. But the first book I want to discuss is actually a reread for me, and that is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Listen, a good time, right? A good time. And so for those of you who are not familiar, The Hunger Games is a book where we have our protagonist Katniss, who lives in the world of Panem, where because the people revolted ages ago, they annually have this Hunger Games to remind them to stay in their place. And the Hunger Games, they have tributes, 2 tributes from each district, where you have to go and battle to the death. We have our main character, Katniss, who isn't selected for the Hunger Games, but her younger sister is. And so in order to save her sister, Prim, she volunteers to go into the Hunger Games, and then we're on that journey with her. In my notes, I said, once you get into it all, the feels come back. So yeah, it was a little bit of a slow burn, maybe a little bit at the beginning, not super slow, but like I just knew where it would go, so I wanted it to pick up. But once I got back into it, I was fully invested. I noted Katniss and her temper, but it was valid. Like, she had the right to be angry. I appreciated her sarcastic tone throughout the book. I say, though there is action almost immediately, it took me a while to become emotionally invested in the characters again. It wasn't until the day before the games that I found myself caring what happens to them. Katniss, I said, is a little slow on the uptake, but slowly and surely she's getting there. There are definitely elements of Romeo and Juliet with the star-crossed lovers throughout here. I've had a very emotional moment. I said, why am I about to cry when District 11 sent her the bread? Also, that Suzanne Collins does a really good job of making sure the psychological impact and toll of it all is felt, especially once Katniss is in the hovercraft after winning the Hunger Games. Hopefully y'all have read this book. I said, Snow is a huge figure that we all know, so it's interesting to realize that we don't encounter him until the very end of this book. I'm torn on whether or not I feel sorry for Peeta in the end. It's complicated. I love it still. And so there's so many emotions here, being with Katniss in the arena, trying to really unpack everything that's going on, the psychological impact, the development between her and Peter, the need to stay alive. There was so much here. Also grappling slowly, right? Slowly grappling with what does it mean to be in this position? How can you resist? And she doesn't really get that here until like the end. But there was so much here. There's so much complexity, so much depth. I love it. I love the Hunger Games. I had such a good time rereading it. I am rereading the second one, so I will be making my way through the series. No promises on when I'll get done, but know that it's happening. And so, again, based on my scale of read now, read soon, read when you have time, or read if you want, I gave this a read now, for sure. Sticking with fantasy or sci fantasy, if you will, the next book is another reread, and it is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This one I feel like it's harder to explain, but in actuality, not really. So we are with our character Cyanide, we are with our main protagonist, who has discovered her son is unalive by the hands of her husband, and her daughter has been kidnapped by him as well. And so we're on this journey with her to go find her daughter and get revenge for her son. So much happens between there, though. So we also have two storylines that eventually merge. I won't tell y'all how, but we're going back and forth in time, and we're dealing with the world ending for the last time. So there are these seasons that come and cause catastrophe throughout time. Periodically they come. And so right now we're going through another season. We're at the onset of a season. Think of it as global warming, the impact that we have on the earth, and not fully understanding that secrets are revealed, understanding the complexity, the connections that we make. In my notes, I say, I love how the beginning immediately drops us into the concept that the world has ended before. It evolves and takes different shapes, disaster, catastrophe, and always birth something new. Except this time, the world ends for real. It feels time appropriate for this moment in history, however you want to view it, final or another evolution and shift. Imagine not being able to mourn the world ending because you're devastated at the death of your son at the hands of his father. The trauma of it all. The stillness is a land of quiet and bitter irony because it is anything but. There's a satirical element I'm picking up this second time around that I missed the first time. It gets really dark about the node maintainer. That was heavy. I like Cyanide, but not sure how I always feel about Alabaster. So many layers and depth here with his references to the impact of broken and enslaved people. Inan would be less of himself if he had gone to the fulcrum. This I thought was impactful and powerful, so I want to read it because it made me think of us as Black people, the diaspora across the world, and how different it is for all of us, and the distinction I sometimes notice in Black people who come from countries ran and operated by Black people versus those who come from colonized lands or lands by which their ancestors were enslaved, and we're still here. So this is what it says. Anan sounds odd, and Cyanide glances at him in surprise to see an almost regretful look on his face. Sometimes, when I see what you and he can do, I wish I had gone to this fulcrum of yours. No, you don't. She doesn't even want to think about what he would be like if he had grown up in captivity with the rest of them. Enon, but without his booming laugh or vivacious hedonism or cheerful confidence. Enon, with his graceful, strong hands weaker and clumsier for having been broken. Not Enon. I love that sentiment. I thought it was so impactful, so important. To just think about how all of it definitely stains us in some ways, and how it shifts and changes and alters who we will be and who we are. And so I said, when the two storylines merge, you're like, whoa. The second to last chapter almost broke me, for sure. It almost got me. It almost ripped my heart out. I said it almost rips you apart and blows your mind about Hoa. You gotta read it. I said, I don't even know what to make of the end of this book, except I need to know more. The way that it ended, this is one of those books, y'all. I read this book before, not that long ago. I feel like I was reading it for the first time. And I feel like the next time I read it, I'm going to feel that way again. But definitely a great book, great series, very popular. Y'all know it. So based on my scale, It was enjoyable. Not an easy read to get through. It took me a while to get through this one. Definitely got to take your time. Definitely got to sit with it. Definitely got to really unpack and understand everything that's going on slowly. I had to pace it. But once I got into it, oh, I was in it. So I ended up giving this a read now. Y'all need to read it. All right. Now, this is where I shift into the books that are about romance. This is where I shift into my romance books. And so the first one I read is actually a book that I tried to read last year. I could not get into it. But this year, when I tell you I was in it, I'm talking in it, like I was in it. And the book that I'm referring to is Curvy Girl Summer by Danielle Allen. And so for this one, we have our main protagonist, Aaliyah, who, is getting out of a situationship, and she decides that she's ready for the real deal. Her birthday is coming up, her 30th birthday. She has this pressure from her family to be with someone by then. And so she is actively dating, trying to find someone to go on a date with her, be her boyfriend, blow her back out for her 30th birthday. And so we watch her on these apps, going to going on weekly dates with men she's meeting on the apps. She, at the bar where she first goes, she has a good exchange with the bartender. They become cordial. He promises to look out for her. So weekly she takes these dates there. And oh, the chaos that ensues. In my notes, I said I tried to read this last summer and couldn't get into it. Giving it another try this year. So far, I'm enjoying it much more than when I first had to read it. Definitely flows easily. I'm here for the banter and the comedies between friends. However, I do have an issue. She sometimes introduces other things happening but doesn't follow through on them. So I mean that about Danielle Allen. There were some points where she would introduce like an idea from a side character, like a side situation that was going on, but we never got the information, and I really wanted it. Like, I understand they may not directly relate to the main character, but you sparked my interest, and now I want to know what is the side storyline. But overall, I said this book is nothing if not funny. Come on, honest friendships that hold each other accountable. Aaliyah is a little slow because the pieces to Ahmad's puzzle were easy to put together early on. I definitely saw the big reveal here way before it happened. I was like, that's not true. I just knew that wasn't the case. I'm not going to tell y'all because you got to read it. I said, sometimes I need Aaliyah to talk less and get out of her head, but I get it. And in the end, I said, big Ahmad, not the little one. It was really good. So y'all probably like, what does that mean? There was so much going on. I don't want to reveal it. It was so good. The writing was good. The banter was good. I know a lot of people had issues with the heavy emphasis on weight and the family badgering her, belittling her. I'm sorry, y'all, but that felt realistic. It just did. And I didn't feel like it was done in a way to be cruel. I didn't feel as if it was done in a way that was just like trauma porn. I felt like it was real. It was honest. And that's how people sometimes engage around weight, unfortunately. And so I really liked the way that it happened. I liked the way the story progressed. I liked the characters. Really, really enjoyed it. So I am actually currently reading the second book in the series. That's how much I enjoyed it. Not the best thing I read in the month, but for romance, it was really, really good in that category. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. But like, it wasn't a drop everything you read now, but it was definitely a read soon. Definitely enjoyed it. So the next book I want to discuss is one of the short novellas in the Art of Hood Love series, where we get backstories on all the people that are associated with Relic Records. And what I'm discussing is Calm by Antoinette Sherrill. And if you're not familiar, Calm is the producer over at Relic Records. We get his backstory. We get to learn about him and his challenges and his family. In my notes, I said, this book is making me miss my brother real bad. That was happening. Oh, I can't tell y'all this. So that we do get updates on like Tima and Calm and what that situation is. They're best friends or whatever. But I liked learning about Calm and his family and his history and how he got to where he is and how he became a producer and everything that went into it. I said I enjoyed learning about Calm's background. I do hope he finds his people. But for me, the highlight, my favorite part was about him and Tima. If you're into that storyline and invested the way I am, you're definitely going to read it. Not my favorite novella in the series, but still an enjoyable time. I ended up giving it a read when you have time. All right, now last but never, ever least, the next book I want to discuss is Quasim III by Jacquel J. And those of you not familiar, Quasim is the leader of the Inferno Gods. He is the big brother to Quamir. If you've been following along, you know that. And in this storyline, we are dealing with him. I don't want to say that because I don't want to tell y'all whether he's alive or dead. I'm kidding. We're dealing with him on this journey of recovery. At the end of book 2, spoiler. At the end of book 2, he is shot. We don't know what's going on. And in this one, we get to see him fighting for his life. We get to see what's happening around him. We get to see some like loose ends be tied. As far as Elijah and other storylines, we get to see Blair and Quasim, figuring it out. So in my notes, I say, will Quasim live or die? The scene of them looking over Staten Island and Blair saying how they have to pay for what's happened to Quasim and Quamir and the triplet is very visual and well done. I said it's chilling almost. My heart is really bleeding for Quamir. Having gone through the same thing with my brother and him not making it got me over here about to cry real tears. Tukey is delusional as hell, waiting on Blair to come back. That's actually funny. Thea need her ass whooped for letting all that happen with Elijah. Mina wildin', but I kind of believe it from her. LOL. The old heads are wildin' in this book. Papa thinking he's sweet because he lets people decide how they want to go is both correct and wrong at the same time. LOL. I need Quasim to wake up because I was low-key bored. I love Min's crazy stuff so bad. He is just hilarious. Corleone is super funny to me. He's definitely his brother's sibling. Sending papers threatening to take Skylar to court about a child that isn't biologically his is so funny. Tukey wild in the head like WTF. He thinks the most irrational things about what he did to Blair. His logic is so flawed. Listen, the right words have to be used. I said this could have used another edit just for that. Sometimes they would use incorrect prepositions. It was bothering me real bad. Overall, I said it was pretty good. I love that they got their happy end and that the story was good, but I wasn't blown away. The use of incorrect prepositions was blowing me. A personal thing, but still, it was a thing. And overall, I thought it was cool. So for me, the ending of the series was cool. Honestly and truly, Quasim, unfortunately, is not my favorite in the series. I'm much more enjoying the Caselli brothers. I don't know if it's because I read 10,000 Hours for the Rich Minutes first and then went back and started with Corleone. I do love Corleone, though. Corleone is still my favorite in the series, but these Caselli brothers really do it for me. But as far as as far as Quasim, it was cool. I wasn't mad at it. Didn't love it. Not my favorite in the series at all. And I ended up giving it a read when you have time. If y'all are tapped into Jack Quill, y'all gonna read it regardless. So you don't need me to tell you that. But I am currently reading. So one of the books I'm reading is Plus Size Player by Danielle Allen. That is the second book in the series. That one follows Nina, who is one of Aaliyah's best friends. We meet her in Curvy Girl Summer. I'm also reading Don Caselli. That one got me in a chokehold right now. Big Don, not the little one. Don't play with him. Landon, if you get the privilege. I'm also still reading Matriarch by Tina Knowles. So just want to keep y'all abreast of what I'm reading. Those are my reads. These were the books I read in July. The next video that will be coming to the channel will be books that I am looking forward to that are being released in August. So look out for that. That'll be coming soon. But y'all, that's it for me. As always, I'm Shay. The channel is MsMalcolmHughes. Again, one where we believe that books are sometimes better than people. And I will catch you book people in the next video. Peace.